Feature Constellation, Taurus the Bull on episode 500 of the Actual Astronomy Podcast. I'm Chris, and joining me is Shane. We are amateur astronomers who love looking up at the night sky, and this podcast is for everyone who enjoys going out under the stars.
For the show.
For the show. This is episode 500, Shane. I think I was just looking at the fact that this is show 500, or the 500th show, as I put it in the notes. Um, Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, where has the time gone? But here we are, 500. It's been fun. It's been a good time.
Mm,
Still having fun doing the podcast. And, I've said it before, but I really love the community that's been built
mm.
around this. We have a lot of great interaction with listeners. We've had a lot of great guests on the show. And, I think... Or maybe one thing I didn't know about when I got into astronomy is how social of a hobby it really can be.
Mm,
I think a lot of people, at least myself, when I used to think of astronomy, it was like one person at a telescope all night by themselves.
mm.
But often we observe together, and then you talk about the hobby outside of observing, and it just really turns into a real social sort of community oriented endeavor, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I didn't think we'd ever get to 500 when we started making these for Mike. That's for sure.
Hmm.
It was just on the show. Yeah, it was kind of funny because I think I said at the time we really just sort of started making them for Mike and something to do during the pandemic, and we'd done a podcast before, and then just started dabbling around and started doing the objects to observe in the sky each month and the calendar, as we call it now, and just our own observations. And then I think the big thing was that you alluded to was that the listeners started writing in with their own questions and observations, and that was pretty unexpected because I don't think that happens as much for other podcasts from what we've been able to gather, eh?
Yeah, yeah, it certainly was unexpected. I wasn't sure, that anybody would listen, and never dreamt that anybody would really write us. But
Mm.
yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, because I think typically when I've done research on other or on podcasting, they say, well, you won't really hear from the listeners or whatever. But I mean, we probably hear from 10 or 20% of the listeners, I think, which is pretty cool because we
Yeah.
we don't have that many listeners, but we get I don't know, thousands of emails a year, I want to say. Is that too far-fetched? I feel like it has to be because I definitely have had a couple hundred in the past month. So
Yeah, it seems like there's anywhere from 2 to 5 a week. So it adds up pretty fast.
yeah, I think I had 2 to 5 this morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Craig Levine, who we had on. I don't know. I think it was just have we had him on twice, or anyway, maybe it's just on once. But anyway, Craig's taken possession of a lot of his brother's astronomical stuff, and he sent me some of his photos of the NGT, the Next Generation Telescope 18-inch from the early 90s that his brother had picked up some like 17 years ago or something and sat in storage forever and a day.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of cool to see. He's going to build an observatory up in Ontario somewhere, and then we've been going back and forth on that. So I had some book recommendations and some construction recommendations based on my own experiences, which are that you really want to block that winter wind to get the most out of your observing. That's something I didn't factor in as much, but fortunately my builder did. Made the walls a little taller than maybe what I originally had wanted, and it's a huge difference. Hey, like you've been in there in the winter time and know that it's that winter wind that really gets you, eh?
Well, yeah, and really, to me, it's the whole year. If you have a cool night and there's any kind of a wind or breeze, it really goes through you, and it really
Yeah.
shortens the amount of time you can be out there. So having a windbreak really is it's a game changer. It really extends your sessions, but it probably even starts sessions that you might have just stayed indoors because it looks too cold outside due to the wind.
Yeah, even when we were just building it a couple of years back, Mike and Peter came out and it got kind of windy, so we actually went up in the observatory with our binoculars and observed
Mhm.
because it got so windy. Um, yeah, it's kind of a funny thing that way. But have you been able to get any recent observing in during this August new moon period where we're recording this now?
Yeah, I did. Not any dark site stuff, just in the backyard. Um, but I took the FOA 60 out
Oh,
and
wow.
did some double star work. Kept working on. I forgot that I had like three or four. I think it was three doubles on the summer list that I hadn't observed yet up in
Hmm.
Vulpecula. So I picked those apart. So it was SAO designations are 89397, 89505, and 87218.
Hmm.
They were pretty neat. The first one there, 89397, pretty wide. Both stars pretty similar magnitude, but
Hmm.
one
Hmm.
one of the stars had kind of an orange tinge to it, and the other one was white. So always appreciate those color differences.
Nice.
89505 was, again, pretty easy to split. One of the interesting things after I observed it is Blake's notes indicate one star is yellow. And I think my eye just doesn't pick up the yellow spectrum very well because I
Ah.
have a hard time detecting yellow in color or in stars. And then the final one there, 87218, was probably the dimmest pair of the night and fairly close, but I was still able to split very near the coat hanger and could see a bit of the question mark there from the coat hanger or CR, what is that, 399, I think it is.
Okay.
Anyway, it was fun. It was a beautiful evening, but I've really been putting that FOA through some of its paces, and that telescope really, really is like unbelievable. Like there's like what was happening is, I was observing like I normally would, and I focused to where I normally focus and was enjoying the observing. But like the first pair I mentioned here, 89397, I thought I was seeing some orange in the star. And, a kind of a hack for double star observers to see if there's really star color is you just rack the focuser out of focus. And,
Mm.
it sort of makes balloons out of the stars. But if there's color, it's just easier to see because now it's way larger.
Okay.
Well, what I realized is I wasn't focused, even though
Mm.
I thought I was focused. I basically focused to a point that I'm used to seeing through telescopes, which is fairly darn sharp. However, this FOA cuts even sharper. Like I've never seen stars that pinpointed sharp before, all the way to the edge. It was unbelievable. And like my astonishment when I went to rack it out of focus and I actually made it even sharper focus blew my mind.
Hmm.
This little telescope may now be the one, like when we asked the question, if you were stranded on a desert island and you only had one telescope to pick. This might be it. It was phenomenal. I had the Q extender in it as well, which definitely helps to flatten the field. But yeah, wonderful, wonderful instrument.
And it's 60 millimeter. Is it f/8.8 and f/12.7 with the focal field flattener extender thing?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It was. I just can't say enough great things about that telescope. Certainly, you lose the wide field aspects.
Hmm.
So my next journey out, I think I'll take the 2-inch set out and just see how it does, like on the coat hanger and a few other things like that.
Cool. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
really great to hear that you got that out. And did you go to grasslands or was it cloudy on the nights you were planning to go, or is that in the future still?
That's in the future. I'm planning to go Wednesday, Thursday this coming week, which would be what I think that's the 27th and
27th and
28th.
28th, yes.
Yeah,
Sadly, I know those dates well, yes.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, that should be good down there. I mean, been having some really good skies, of course. Um,
yeah. Wednesday night's looking really good. Thursday is questionable, but it's
Yeah.
still early, so we'll see how it shapes up.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Any gear on the way?
Nothing yet, but I'm really eyeing up a Venmo Traveler mount. Are you familiar with that, Chris?
Is that one of those? Does is that one of those ones Hugh Tech was bringing in for a while?
They might have been. Just going to the website right now. It's made by AOK Swiss, so
Yeah, yeah, that's the one.
they make a bunch of different mounts, and this one is a like a single arm sort of fork mount alt as.
Yeah.
It's it's called the Traveler mount because it's very lightweight. It's meant to travel with, but it's very supposed to be very sturdy, very robust, and it also is compatible with the Nexus digital setting circles, which I'm a huge fan of. And I kind of want like a lighter weight mount just for in and out of the house, as
Mm,
well as for traveling. That gives me the option of bringing the digital setting circles if I want. And
hmm.
one of the reasons why I'm just a big fan of those setting circles is it makes your night of observing so much more efficient. Like you're able to see, at least myself, I'm able to see way more objects than star hopping and referencing star maps and all of that kind of stuff. And when you're traveling, especially if you're traveling, say, to Southern Hemisphere, my approach would be to maximize each evening that I'm under the stars. So having the setting circles would be a big advantage.
Hmm.
But this mount can apparently carry a 6 kilogram payload.
I see that.
And they say that the maximum focal length you'd want on there is 900 millimeters, but that
Whoa.
gives you a pretty wide spectrum.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to order it. I've considered it for a little while. It's not inexpensive like some of these niche things are. Like I think it's about 800 Canadian for this thing.
Mm.
So again, it's not it's not cheap, but it's one of these mounts. I think you cry once, but I'll use it for life, and it'll be a great mount.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it here. I guess they make it in a few different variants, but it comes in at 1.4 kilograms, which is just under 3 pounds. Says you can put a 4-inch f10 refractor or an 8-inch Smith Cassegrain telescope on it. Wow, that's a pretty versatile little mount. I've got a few little mounts that can take some decent load, but nothing quite like that. It's all just delta as though manual
Hmm.
and says pretty good up to about 200 magnification. So, and it comes in black, gray, and my favorite, red.
There you go. Yeah,
You
get
don't go for
colorful.
red. Yeah. What color did you order or did you order yet?
I haven't ordered. If I do, I kind of like the look of like it's almost like a raw finish. I don't know if
The
they offer
gray?
that. Well, the one above the gray, like at the very top of the page, it looks kind of raw. I don't know if they offer that.
Unanodized. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be cool.
yeah, but I don't know. Color doesn't resonate too much with me, so we'll see.
Mm.
Maybe whichever one they have in stock that they can ship right away.
Yeah. Yeah, often that's the best way to go. Yeah. I do like that red though. That'd be pretty nice. I have the Universal Astronomics Micro Star.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like I don't know how much it weighs, but it basically it's like 6 or 8 ounces or something. It's like a cup of coffee or something. It's maybe not even quite that heavy, and can take it can take the 100 DC, but just it's not that good on it. I need something a little bit more robust. Same with the Skywatcher AZ GTI. Is that the one I have? Can't remember. And it that one takes the 100 DC a little bit better, the 4-inch talk. And but the MicroStar works really well with my Schmidt-Newt. My 5.5-inch Schmidt-Newt works like perfectly on that. I've often thought if I ever do want a big trip, I got to get that Schmidt-Newt working a little bit better, and that might be the ticket for having some reasonably large aperture, 5.5 inches,
Hmm.
fast focal ratio for doing some wide field stuff. But yeah, this looks like a great addition. Looks like it takes weight similar to maybe even slightly better than my Takahashi Lapides. I see people recommending that SV Bony, whatever it is, 225 or something like that. But this looks like a slightly more robust version of that.
Yeah. One thing I like about it compared to the Stellar View M2C that I have is the M2C hangs the telescope off the side, so it's not
Mm,
sort of centered on the tripod, whereas
yeah.
this hangs it kind of, I don't know, like towards the tripod so that it's right over top of center mass there. I don't know if that makes a big difference, but it just gives me peace of mind a little bit, especially if your telescope is a little heavier. Hanging it off to the side is, I don't know, just always troubles me a bit. I've never had an issue, but it's just a thing.
Yeah. Here, the one thing here that we should draw attention to, which makes me a little bit reluctant for some of the other mounts, is that because of our extreme environments, like if you do want to go out and observe, like even with my Takahashi, the gears will bind once the mount reaches about minus, I want to say 15 or so. And considering how much observing I do below about minus 12 or minus 15, um, it's just not a good idea to get something that can't handle that because it is kind of frustrating when you do have equipment that doesn't work at those temperatures, eh?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. At those temps, all of that stuff can lock up depending on, grease and whatever whatever else might be in there that the cold just makes life difficult on.
Yeah, even my what's it called EQAZ6, the Skywatch, the big one in the observatory, like it will start making some funny sounds. And I probably won't run it much below about minus 20 true temperature. I feel like I figured out that that's probably the limit. It's probably about my limit anyway.
Hmm.
But at once it gets much below minus 10, it will start making some sounds, but I think it's fine. I mean, it's been fine so far. But I think if I take it 10 degrees colder, then I could experience some sort of catastrophic failure of some sort, I suppose. So
Hmm.
so we'll see. But that looks like a great little mount, Shane.
Yeah, I think it will be. So I'm going to do a little more research and, if everything checks out, I'll likely order it.
And I have something here for you from Alistair, and I still have that flocking paper I've got to get to you. It's taking me
Oh,
forever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So Alistair sent over a few eyepieces.
Oh, wow.
They're not amazing eyepieces, but he's installed occulting. I want to say bars, but when I looked in them, they look more like I forget the name of it, but like if you have a compass, like an old-timey compass, and it has that little nub, the little arrow that sticks out and gives you your direction indication, it's more like that, which is kind of cool. I think one of them has a
Hmm.
bar, and a couple of them have that. So anyway, one's for you, and then he sent over one for me, and then it looks like a fairly inexpensive one that he made out of. And I feel bad now because I think I actually threw some of those eyepieces out, but I may have a couple still around. But they're like the absolute cheapest eyepieces that you can get. But I think the two other ones are fairly good. I think you're getting a 10 millimeter, looks like just like a good generic Plossel, and then he gave me a 23 millimeter Plossel of some sort. So excited to try those out. On a variety of things, like we were talking about observing
Hmm.
deep sky objects next to stars and stuff like that. So I try to make some occulting eyepieces before. Actually, that's how we wrecked my 32 millimeter Teleview years and years ago. So happy
Yeah.
to get one. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Alistair. Appreciate that. And definitely will put it to use. It's not often I need an occulting bar in an eyepiece, but once in a while it would be really nice.
Mm,
Like even trying to split Sirius AB, it might be a nice handy tool, but looking forward to giving it a go.
Yeah, I always want one. For especially like if you want to observe, I think it's NGC 404 or something like that is near Regulus, or maybe I know the Leo dwarf is by Regulus, but maybe there's another. I don't know where 404 is now that I think about it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But there's lots of objects that are by stars. You look at even like the Horsehead by Zeta Orionis. It'd be nice to have an occulting bar
Hmm.
to blot that out and see. I think it's NGC 2024 and 2023 and I3434 and all those very faint targets, but they're right by a bright star. So certainly something like that can help.
Hmm.
Starting to put the motor on the roll-off roof observatory. So that's a bit of an adventure here this weekend. We're getting there. I sent you a little video. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're able to see that. Yeah, what'd you think? It's like what we did is we have a staging area we call it, and it's a big table up there, and we've just put it on that and run the power from the power source on the hill, and we're able to get it running. But you could see it spin up and reverse and everything. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks awesome. Like, it's going to do exactly what you want and need it to do. So just get it installed and see how it goes from there.
Yeah, so I think today he said he's going to come by. I'm hoping he does, and stick the motor on. And the plan is to put the motor on, get it in place. It's sort of step by step, and then make sure that it runs in place. And then we'll go from there, because that's a fairly big production just to get a motor working, 15 or 16 feet off the ground or whatever it is where that rail is. And then he's later on in the week, he's going to put on there's like a track, I guess is the best way to put it. And then you have to sync it with the track in the right place and then put on there's these magnets that one goes on one end, one goes on the other. So it sort of starts and stops in the right spots, kind of thing. So
Hmm.
there's a little bit of futzing around, but he thinks maybe by the end of the week he might be able to have it done, or at least by the middle of September.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's sort of my goal because I'm a little bit out of commission now. So as we were discussing, and hopefully by September new moon, be able to observe, but wouldn't be able to roll the roll off for some time to come, sadly. So hoping that once that gets installed, be able to get in there and start observing. Still have lots of painting to do. Like I said, I'm somewhat skeptical we'll be able to get all that done this year, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get it done if we get a nice warm fall here.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Were you able to do
Uh,
any observing at all?
what's that?
Were you able to do any observing?
No, I really can't. I have to make sure I get lots of sleep these days. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's no observing for me until the next new moon. Fingers crossed, so to speak.
Yeah.
Got the calendar done. I just kind of got most of the edits in. I mean, it always feels like it's never done. It's quite the production that goes on for always seems like far too long, but kind of jammed that out here the past week or so, and kind of have to get to the point where I start making some editorial decisions while I'm pretty, you know, flaked out at night. It's like I really shouldn't even be working on this. I am too tired from working all day at my regular job, and then I'm like, I'll include this one. I don't know. I'm not including that edit, and I just kind of go through and put the most important ones in that I see fit. But I had sent it out to all the reviewers like 5 or 6 weeks ago, and then I got the mock-up back, and then people start making other comments, and it's like I'm out of time. I have other things, sadly, that I have to get to.
Hmm.
And then I wrote up we do a featured constellation. Randall's been on the show a few times before, and did that on Taurus this year. But before I get into that, maybe we'll have you read. Dan from Switzerland sent me a short email reply. He had sent us an email about some of his observing in Switzerland and wrote this one back. Or maybe, yeah, yeah. Do you want to read it?
Sure. He said, Dear Chris, thanks for the compliment on my lunar sketch. I did a little bit of watercolor painting a few years back, but really your podcasts and some of the YouTube videos gave me a bit of the basics as well as the just try it attitude to just draw what I see and not trying to make it perfect, which usually is a killer of joy for me. I was mostly trying to get the full dynamic brightness scale down, also by enhancing some of the darkness with lifting graphite with the rubber at the end. I was surprised how much more realistic it looks when inverting. It's almost like back in the day when you developed a photo. Attached is the following sketch of Aristillus.
Mhm.
Tonight I was attempting to attend my first star party, but it got fogged out. And all I saw was people driving away when I arrived at the empty Gurnagel Pass parking lot. I was able to catch 1 hour of mostly clear skies halfway down the mountain and was surprised to see M31, NGC 869, and M34 with my 8x43 binos, as I had no scope with me. Once more, your podcast stepped in and gave me company. Speaking of, Shane mentioned wanting to ham radio with other astronomers, and then he just asks if I've considered setting up a Discord server. That way, all the listeners who have the internet could have a voice chat while observing. Sadly, I'm in another time zone, but still might have a listen or use it to connect with listeners over here. Very best regards to both from Dan. Yeah, on my ham radio front, I don't have a high frequency radio, so it'd be pretty hard for me to really reach out and talk to other folks. I just have some simple VHF radios, so they're basically line of sight instruments that really can't communicate over vast distances very well. And a Discord server is interesting. I've never thought of that, but I typically don't have screens with me when I'm observing either, so I'm not sure how
Mm.
active I would be on a Discord.
For some reason, I thought you mentioned it once before because I really hadn't heard of them much. But anyway, maybe I was just looking around on the internet and ran across them. I haven't used them before. Have you used any of those Discord servers?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's like in the like PC or console gaming world, a lot of games and like squads or people that group together to play a particular game, they will set up a Discord to sort of moderate and manage the group, and you can do all sorts of neat things with Discord. It's a really good service.
yeah, I've never really played around with it too much. I don't have internet in the observatory. I mean, I have a network up there, but it's a closed network for just doing astronomy, but it's only like local. So that I if I have to take something up there, it's a little bit painful because if I have to get something off the internet, then I'll have to like download it to my phone and actually walk it up there. So my plan is eventually to put internet up there and to be able to record these podcasts and such. But yeah, we'll see once we get to that point. But currently, that's not the priority. That's sort of the third priority down. We'll see what happens when I get to that point as well. Like when I'm observing, I'm really quite focused. And I've gotten on calls with Mike before observing, and maybe even yourself, and then like it's just like silence for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it could be something to try. It could be something to try. But anyway, Dan said he'd be up for experimenting, but I think we are like 8 or 9 hours apart in time zones or something. So
Hmm.
um yeah, maybe in the winter I could do like a morning session, which may be I don't even know if it's dark at these two places at the same time. But anyway. All right, maybe I'll read my little bit here on Taurus, and what I might do is just kind of read a bit, and then we can talk after each sort of paragraph.
Sure.
So I'll
And this,
begin if you're good with
the,
that.
yeah, this will appear in the RASC Observer's Handbook next year. Is that the?
2026, yeah, and I think this
Oh,
is just about the good copy. There's be a few changes in that, but we give it away for free. So I'm not breaking my own copyright or anything here. We do give it away for free every year. We call it internally, Randall and I call it the throwaway piece. And it's like if anybody wants to kind of get an idea of the handbook a little bit, there's some sections that they do give away and we give this away. So I can kind of do what I want with it, which is kind of neat. But I've
hmm.
written about 16 pieces, I think, so far. And this is the first time I'm coming back around a little bit because the very first one I ever wrote for the handbook in 2009 was on the Eridanus arc, and that of course oddly is included in here because the brightest portion cuts through Taurus, even though the majority of it is in Eridanus, thus the common name. All right, so what I typically do is put a quote at the start. So this quote is by Aratus from Phenomena, which is my favorite astronomical poem. I don't know if you have a favorite astronomical poem, Shane, but that's mine.
I do not.
So it says, at the feet of the charioteer, seek for the crouching horned bull. Very lifelike are his signs, oft spoken is their name, and not all unheard of are the Hyades. Broadcast are they on the forehead of the bull. One star occupies the tip of his left horn, and the right foot of the charioteer, who is close by. So basically, in the poem Aratus, what he's saying is that the charioteer of Auriga is basically nearby Taurus. And if you're looking towards the northeast in the autumn sky, you will see Auriga rise, and then followed by that is Taurus. It's not happenstance. This poem is very particular. It's not esoteric at all. It's just telling you exactly what is happening in the sky, which is the reason why I like it. And I believe Aratus was a blind person, and this is a didactic poem, meaning that he had it all sort of memorized and would recite it, and then someone kindly wrote it all down, which is super cool considering it's quite a long poem. It's not like 10 lines or anything. I think it's like a couple dozen pages or something to that effect. It's pretty big.
Hmm.
Neat, eh?
Yeah, cool.
And talks about the main part of the bull, which is the head of the bull, which is the Hyades. Excuse me. Taurus the bull charges head down toward Orion. The unmistakable V-shaped pattern marks the Hyades, cataloged as Malat 25. This is the nearest open cluster at 153 light years. First magnitude Aldebaran burns bright red as the eye of the bull, but is an accidental member, laying almost 3 times closer. So that often is one of those first stars people learn in the sky, hey?
Yeah, yeah, it's quite prominent, and it stands out with the color.
And then one learns that that grouping of stars is a cluster, yet Aldebaran is not a member of that cluster, which is yeah, it's kind of neat to think about. Malad 25 and Aldebaran sitting there. Very unmistakable though, that V pattern, hey?
Yeah, yeah, it really, like, you can't miss it. I see that in my backyard. It's very, very bright, and they're all like a lot of those stars are of a similar magnitude, and yeah, it really jumps out.
And in France, they found cave paintings. Actually, it was a dog named Robot that found the cave paintings at the end of World War II. The dog went and hid in a hole, and one of the boys who owned the dog scampered after it, and uh, and they found this set of cave paintings inside, and they kind of stood guard till the end of the war. It was like literally in the final month or so of World War II, and they were worried that some way, somehow it got found out that there were these paintings in there that might get destroyed or taken out or something one way or another, as was happening at the time. And anyway, it may be that these cave paintings in the Lascaux caves in France are some of the earliest depictions of this set of constellations, Orion and Taurus and such, and the Pleiades appear to be in there as well. It certainly does look like that if you go in and take a look online and you go through. And one thing they did and it was a while back. And National Geographic went in with a projector of sorts and actually projected onto the ceiling like the constellations, and it was pretty remarkable how many of the stars more or less lined up in the sky. And this thing has been dated to over 17,000 years ago, which is pretty phenomenal itself.
Wow.
The Pleiades M45 rises by midnight during late summer and played a role in establishing early agrarian calendars. The brightest stars pierce through any horizon haze and catch the observer's eyes for those staying up late at star parties. Well known as the Seven Sisters, there are many more stars in this cluster, though 9 stars are brighter than magnitude 5.5, and several more are readily observable under dark skies. Magnitude 2.9 Alcyon is the brightest Pleiade and can be located using binoculars. And what you do is you find a string of 7 magnitude stars, and they basically lead to Alcyon. And they're faintly visible as a fuzzy line to the unaided eye. Just north of the bend in this line is magnitude 4.2 Merope, and home to Tempel's Merope Nebula, easily seen in small optics on clear nights. In fact, a general haze of nebulae appears over many of the stars under darker skies. Looking east, lands wide field observers on IC 353, which is a component of the Taurus molecular cloud, and the cloud extends east with dark nebulae 211, or Bernard 211, flowing into dark nebula B213, and the large dark nebula B22, wrapping small reflection nebula IC 2087. Then turning south between the horns are a set of open clusters NGCs 1647 and 1746. There's this huge molecular cloud up there in Taurus, and you don't need to be at the darkest site in the world to start seeing it. It's just one of those things that requires the knowledge that it's there. And with this piece of work here that I'm reading, my friend Randall has created a sketch. It's probably best if you actually get a copy of the handbook if you're interested, and then you can see his sketch and where a lot of this stuff lands. And we put a couple more objects in there, but it's nice, Shane. I think seeing the nebula around the Pleiades is something many people struggle at locating for some time. I don't know what your experience is with that, though.
Yeah, I've seen it many times through various instruments, but what kind of gets me a little bit is I've read lots of reports too, like on Cloudy Nights and some other forums, that the nebulosity can sometimes be mistaken for just dirty optics, which I could see that. Sometimes a bright star, if you have a dirty eyepiece or a dirty mirror, could sort of disperse light and look like nebulosity. But for as many times as I've seen it, I'm confident I have observed it. Hmm.
Yes, I'm sure you have. I have. And one of the reasons I know that we've seen it is that when we've gone out and looked, and then we'll go to a star of similar or brighter magnitude, and we don't see that haze around it. And then as well, I mean, once you start thinking you see it, and you start to see that there's some structure to it that is not symmetrical or asymmetrical or whatever. It's sort of inconsistent and kind of jogs one way and then the other. And reflections don't typically do that.
Hmm.
Certainly not in the right aspect, that we'd be talking about. But I get distracted because every once in a while when you talk, one of the reasons why I like talking with you, Shane, is that every once in a while you have these phrases, and I think, oh, that's a very interesting phrase. And you mentioned a dirty eyepiece, and I thought if there was an astronomer's bar, you would want to call it the dirty eyepiece or something like that. I don't know, like a dive bar at a really seedy star party or something.
maybe we should create a new libation, and that's the name of it. A new
Anyway,
cocktail brought to you by actual astronomy.
that's pretty funny. In 2026, Uranus lies midway between the Hyades and the Pleiades, and with opposition in November, it can be worth tracking that down at that time of year. It's a 5.7 magnitude planet and would be a nice cap off to any sort of dark sky observing session. South of Uranus is NGC 1555, which is Hind's Variable Nebula, three arc second reflection nebula around variable star T Tauri, which is the prototype for a class of young stars that has recently emerged from a cocoon of dust and gas. Near the Perseus border, the magnitude 8 star of planetary nebula 1514 appears to have a faint luminous atmosphere and convinced Herschel that not all nebulae were masses of stars. A trio of stars rises just ahead of Orion NGCs at 1807 and 1817, pair well with 1 degree telescopic fields, while Colander CR65's giant mushroom shape is best viewed in wide field binoculars. So I'm going to reference back to my previous paragraph and then the end of this paragraph, which the previous paragraph we ended with NGC 1647 and NGC 1746, this time 1807 and 1817. These are big clusters, Shane, and they look great in small telescopes. So if you have
Hmm.
like your FL90, um, I think that this set of five open clusters are just fantastic for really nice small wide field instruments, and they're reasonably bright. Like you don't need to be at a super dark sky to enjoy these. I've used binoculars to look at them from the city. Even they're quite lovely. Not sure if you've ever taken the time to see these, but I think from your backyard they'd be very nice objects on a cool late October evening.
Yeah, I have seen them. Taurus is one of my favorite constellations because I love open clusters, excuse me, and I love double stars, and it has a lot of both.
Hmm.
So yeah, wonderful constellation to work through. And all of that stuff is, great from the backyard. Light
Hmm.
pollution isn't as big of a factor there.
Yeah, so some of this stuff I try to give a mix. That Taurus molecular cloud, though, you want to be
Mm,
like
yeah.
Bortle 4-ish or better. I think I can kind of start to see it from here. Certainly can see the Pleiades nebulae from here, but really to see it in its true spectacular fashion, a sort of late summer, early autumn star party is going to be a nice way to do some of this observing late in the evening or early the following morning when Taurus is near the meridian.
Hmm.
One of the few visible supernova remnants, M1, lies just north of Zeta Tauri, which is one of the horns of the bull, and is one of the 288 brightest stars in the sky. It appears, M1 that is, appears as a crab through Ross's Leviathan, and that's where it gets its name. For a real challenge, dark sky observers should seek out the Eridanus Arc A, which is just west of V Tauri. I should put the number in there, part of a superbubble formed by the combination or combined effects of stellar winds and multiple supernova. Cool. Like so there is M1, which most people are going to be familiar with, which is
Hmm.
that Crab Nebula, which you can see from the cities or whatever. And then there's the giant Eridanus Arc A, which people may not be as familiar with. However, it's not that difficult to see, although I haven't seen many observing reports of it. From here on my deck in 2023, we had that beautiful autumn and had just bought those 12 by 36 binoculars. And I was trying to get the field down by Vitorai.
Hmm.
And lo and behold, I could see the Eridanus Arc A in my 12 by 36 Canon image stabilized binoculars looking across the valley here with, some lights and, places in the distance with their lights on. And it's Bortle 4-ish, here. So
Hmm.
not the darkest sight in the world, and it's something that's visible.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's another nice thing with this constellation is it's there's so much that you can do with binoculars there that it just makes it available to more and more observers because of the
Hmm.
you know, the lack of like really dim galaxies and things like that to chase down.
Yeah. Wild enough is that not only is there M1, which is a supernova nebula or supernova remnant type of nebula, the Eridanus arc, which is part of a superbubble formed by multiple supernova. There is a third supernova remnant that you can see in Taurus, right where Taurus meets Auriga, just east of Elnath, is Simius or Simis 147, straddling both constellations. And there's a bright knot that's about 10 arc seconds, or arc minutes, and it's just east of the star SAO 77397.
Hmm.
Pretty
Just looking
wild
for
that
that right now. Yeah, interesting.
that there's three. You can see three supernova remnants in Taurus, and I just sort of love that because the only other one I think that's reasonably easy to see is the Veil supernova remnant,
Yeah, yeah, very neat.
penciled down in Vela, but of course that's below our horizon here. But I think that the fact that there's like probably just these four or five in the northern sky that you can see three of them in Taurus is quite fascinating. I don't know that I've ever really read that anywhere else that you can see these three supernova remnants in Taurus. I think that would be a project for a really good evening to make those observations, and all visible in smallish telescopes. And you know, maybe binoculars, though I don't think you can see Simius 147 very easily. You would need quite the night, and I've never seen it anything smaller than my 5 inch. But you can sort of see that bright knot south of or east of that SAO 77397 star. It looks like a skate's egg case to me.
Hmm. Interesting.
Easier to see are the annual Taurid meteor showers split between the southern and northern components, both associated with Comet Encke. Due to their peaks in late October and into November, their combined slow speed trails across the sky make them commonly known as the Halloween fireballs. So if you're not into all this faint stuff and you just want to go out and chill out and relax, you get a reclining lawn chair and conditions aren't too cold or you bundle up real good, you can go take a look at the Taurids.
Hmm. Yeah, very cool. Lots of diversity there.
Yeah, lots of different things to see. I didn't put any double stars in really. I kind of just end up focusing on all these other targets this year for whatever reason. But you know, anyway, maybe if I ever flush these writings out even further, I'll be sure to put in all of Blake's stars. So I really like that you're observing those and that you're finding his notes useful. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a wonderful list. Just visually, and then the notes that he has to indicate colors and kind of unique aspects of those systems are it's just a lot of fun.
I don't take any credit for it, but when Blake was creating and designing that double star list, he and I had a lot of conversations about how to make a good list. I'm not a double star observer, though I did observe some of them on the list as he had requested. And yeah, through those conversations, he decided to put in those descriptions, which I don't think he was going to do initially. But yeah, it's fantastic
Hmm.
that he's kind of left us with those. Pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We had a question from Corey, and I thought this fit well because we're going to be talking about Taurus here today as sort of the feature constellation for 2026 or whatever. Of course, people should go out and observe it this autumn because the uh, the Pleiades and Taurus in general starts rising in the very late evening and early morning hours. It's at the meridian once we get into late September. So I think it's a good time to take a peek and see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Best time of the year.
And then Corey had a question about snow. I'm guessing
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly where he lives, but I'm guessing it's a less snowy spot. So Corey says, after having a conversation with a colleague, an interesting question came up. How does snow affect sky quality? Does the extra albedo of the white landscape bump up the Bortle scale a notch or two? Would the lack of moisture in the air compensate for that with less particles to reflect off of? And would that cause the seeing to be still, or would suspended ice particles in the air refract things even worse? I can't think of a better pair of astronomers to ask how snow affects observing conditions. What have your experience been? Thanks, Corey. What do you think, Shane? Snow, yes or no?
Well, it's still like every winter. Like the first couple of like snowy nights. It always surprises me how much light the snow reflects. Like in the summertime, when I'm in my like bedroom window looking out into my backyard, the backyard's black. It's hard to see, without any lights turned on. In the wintertime, at night, you can see everything. You don't need any lights to walk around. The snow reflects so much light, it just
Mm,
really brightens things up. And that certainly is evident, around light pollution because it's bouncing all of that back up into the sky. But even if you
hmm.
go to a dark spot, the snow does brighten the place up a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So it definitely has an impact on how, like, just your visual magnitude and how, what you can see naked eye. And then in general, like at least here, winter conditions usually aren't that great for for astronomy. The seeing is usually not very good. Transparency is often terrible. It's just not a great time of the year, unless it gets really cold, but then it's almost too cold to be outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah. In general, not even in general, the snow makes the sky brighter.
Hmm.
No question. I would say from a dark sky, depending on where you're at, you might lose at least, people always talk about the Bortle scale, and I get it. It's a little bit easy to get your head around, but to me, I feel like out here I lose about a third of a magnitude, I'm gonna say. So I think on the best nights it's like 6.4, maybe the faintest star I've ever seen here on the very best night was 6.7. But typically average good night is 6.3, 6.4. And I'm gonna say in the winter it's more like 5.9. 6 would be just an awesome, awesome night.
Hmm.
So definitely impacts things quite significantly. And then he asks about the lack of moisture. Um, yeah, but it's not always dry, eh?
No, no, not at all. Um, yeah, the winter time's a strange experience for astronomers.
Hmm.
You a lot of people, that ask me about astronomy. I think they've heard or read that cold weather usually makes things steadier, and there's some truth to it, but
Hmm.
the actual practicality of observing in the winter just often doesn't work out. And, you still get sort of, it's not really dew, it's frost, right?
Hmm.
That sets in on your optics. And so you still deal with some of those challenges that you'd have in the summertime. It's amplified because of how cold it is in the winter.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go so far as to say here that there's a lot more moisture in the winter than in the summer by, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen frost like the frost that you get here. And it's surprising because you think, okay, like it's maybe it's a -5 or -10 degree day, which would be quite a lovely day here in the winter. And it's going to go to -15 at night. And you think, well, it's below zero. So everything should be frozen, right? And that's that night you're going to have so much frost and moisture coming down on you. It's going to be crazy. Like in my observatories we've talked about before, basically it turns into a skating rink, like no stretch of the imagination. It's like walking in a skating rink in there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, it was very slippery.
Yeah. So I mean, when I observe in there, I mean, I'm trying to figure out a way to handle it and mitigate it. But I wear boots with glass embedded in the soles in order to be able to remain upright in there. It just, yeah, it's there's a lot of frost that comes down out of the sky. Um, and then in the summer here, we don't get near the moisture, though this year has been a little bit unusual. Would ice particles suspended refract things even worse? Yes,
Yeah.
they do for sure. Yeah, you can see stuff getting bounced around a heck of a lot more in the winter. Um, yeah, in general, it is a pretty big challenge. The biggest challenge, though, is as we've talked about, Shane, and sort of more particular to our region, is the very extreme cold combined with the wind. Wind is also a problem out east as well, like in and around Ontario, where I observed before, such that having a good night for observing that doesn't have wind can feel very rare indeed, Hank.
Yeah, I just assume it's always there or always will be there.
Yeah, yeah. The thing that put me really over the top to get on to an observatory build was not just Mark Radici, but I do blame him significantly. Is there was a few nights that we had that were really good nights, like very good to excellent nights. And actually, I will say they were excellent nights, but what reduces it in my mind so much, Mike and I went out, and one, we're on the side of a road because it can be hard to find a spot to set up. And then the other business was how cold it was because of the wind. It wasn't the necessarily the air temperature was between -9 and -13 by the end of the night. And that's not what we think of as extreme cold, although certainly lots of these listeners will feel that's extreme, but that's definitely manageable here. But the wind speed was like up to 15, 16K, which lowers the feeling of the temperature down in close to -20, which is, like I said before, my definitely my limit. And it's not that pleasant to go out and observe. So you get about half an hour, 40 minutes in of decent observing, and then maybe you hop in your car to warm up or something, and then the next 20 minutes or so are okay, and then maybe you hop in again, and you spend about 2 or 3 hours trying to get an hour and a quarter of observing in, and it's just brutal. By the end of the night,
Mhm.
you wonder why you ever even bought a telescope, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, getting on to an observatory is the best way to mitigate that because, and I think that night you were out, it was -12 or -14 or something like that. It was not a warm evening, and there was like a very good breeze blowing. And I couldn't believe the difference because we walked up to that observatory and I think we observed for an hour or an hour and a half or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And it was over an hour, and we just started to get cold. And we walked out of the observatory, and I think, not even I think, I got more cold walking from the observatory back to the warm cabin than I did in the hour and a half or so, or whatever it was, in the observatory observing.
Hmm.
I couldn't get over it. Remember, we even like did a bit of a podcast on it at the time, and Alistair had chimed in with the fact that, yeah, indeed, when you're outside and you're exposed and there is that wind, you're like trying to heat up this massive environment versus when you're in the observatory and you have those four walls close into you and it's just the sky above, you're losing significant heat, but you're just not radiating it out like you are when you're just 100% exposed in the environment.
Yeah, makes a difference.
It's surprising. It's surprising. But I think what I'm going to do is get some. It's like an all grip. It might even be called all grip, and they can put it in this paint that I bought. And the thinking is to put that on the floor. but it forms like a very coarse sandpaper of sorts.
Okay.
But part of me is almost like, I don't even know if that's going to do the trick because there is so much ice that forms from the frost, as you saw last year, Shane. I don't even know that it won't just fill in any gaps in the grip or not. I feel like it will just fill those gaps in in like no time at all.
It will, but frost is usually like very compacting. Like
Yeah,
I think as soon as you put weight on it with your boot, it would like you'd get through to that grit, and I think it
you
would
would.
make a
Okay.
difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never experienced anything like that. That was a bit of a surprise to me, considering when I started that night and in subsequent nights, there was no ice on the floor. It was a dry, clean floor. And within like an hour or so, it was a venerable skating rink. But yeah, I think I'm going to give that a shot. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? I don't know.
Hmm.
It'll just get dirtier, I guess, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's the trade-off.
yeah. But anyway, we shall see. And it's also like a dark gray, so that will make it a little bit better in there. But honestly, I haven't minded having sort of a off like a matte white floor has been better than I would have thought. It's pretty dark in the observatory anyway because of all the other darkening we did. And then yeah, it's nice to be able to see where the floor is. So
Hmm. Hmm.
anyway, but that should darken it down a little bit more. So yeah. All right. And with that, Shane, we're getting towards the end of our 500th show. We're only recording one today for a change. And yeah, we're going to take what, like 3 or 4 weeks off or something like that. We've got quite a few shows in the can. Although if everything works out well for me and all the other stuff I have going on, then maybe there won't even be any sort of break, and people will just hear another show 7 days from the one that they're hearing now.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's no impact to our release schedule, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. So anything to add to this show or anything else?
No, that's it, Chris.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe, share the show with other stargazers you know, and send us your show ideas, observations, and questions to actualastronomy@gmail.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in more information, would like to contact us, or if you would like to support the podcast, check out our website, actualastronomy.com.